Hi, thanks for tuning in. So this is another anecdote going back to the 90s. I'm going to be telling anecdotes about when things went well, when something funny happened, or if something went badly. I think that these are all, I think they're interesting, kind of interesting stories. And if you're interested in records, maybe you can relate to them, or if you buy and sell things. Yeah, anyway, okay, so here's one. Here's one. So going back to the 90s, um, I used to do joint buying operations with another dealer, somebody that I kind of knew socially, and he was into classical music. He got into dealing just like I did. He saw me get into it. He saw me open a record shop. He became interested and he started fishing around and realized he could also make money out of this game. That's fine. Got no problem with that. And he did very well, actually. I won't say who he is, but he did very well. I think that over his career, he made more money than I did. He sold more records than I did. He became. I mean, part of the reason for that is that I started going abroad in the 90s for various reasons, um, partly to do with relationships that I was in, and I was neglecting my record business, and I kind of fell behind a bit. So but anyway, that's besides the point. We used to go on joint buying operations. We would drive to a collection and we would go in and make an offer and we would split it down the middle, which actually could be quite amusing because when we got the records back, we had this system whereby what did we do? I mean, we just we what I mean basically what we did was the best records we we spread out on the floor and then we tossed a coin and literally whoever won the toss got to go first. So he would go, yeah, pick out the best one, and then it would be my turn, etc., until they were all taken. I think there's a name for that, but I'm not sure what it is. But yeah, that's how we used to do things. And then the more common records where we weren't too bothered, all the four-digit ASDs, narrowband SXLs, the DGs, etc. We would just literally split them down the middle, and that would be it. And okay, so we had, in addition to going out looking at collections, we also had dealers that were one rung below us, who were basically people that went to auctions and they looked around, they advertised locally. They didn't sell to the end user in Japan and the Far East. They sold to people like us who sold to the Far Eastern dealers who then sold on at the absolute top dollar price. So there was some margin, even if we had to pay a lot of money to these guys, there was some margin in it for us. And there was one particular guy, there were two dealers, I won't say who they were. There were two old guys who lived in the Wirral near Merseyside, and we used to go up and visit both of them. One of them was I think the top 78 dealer in the UK. I think he's dead now, unfortunately. He was a very nice man, and he was an expert in 78s, but he also had a regular supply of classical records, and we used to go to him and buy from him, and he was good. He was nice to deal with. And then there was another guy who lived about 10 miles from him. They knew each other. He was a bit of a dodgy character. He he also had he also had some Far Eastern people visiting him, but but they didn't buy everything, and he also liked to sell to us because he needed to shift everything. He didn't like sitting on records, so we used to go to him, and he usually had some quite good, wideband SXLs, desirable records, white golds, blue silvers, etc., etc. And he was a bit kind of sort of shifty to deal with because if he was trying to sell you a really desirable white and gold or blue and silver, and he'd priced it suspiciously low, we would know from that it probably had a fault. So we got to know his ways, but nevertheless, he didn't only. So we tended to be a bit careful with him. But I remember one day we went up there and we visited, first of all, this guy with his 78s. And no, we didn't. Sorry, I beg your pardon. I can't remember why, but we decided to go up on the train. I can't remember the reason for that. I honestly can't remember why we decided to go on the train, but we did. We went up on the train and then we got a taxi to both of these places. And then once we'd done all our buying, we had something like, what did we have? We had about 4 boxes like that, each one with about 50 or 60 records in it. Brown cardboard boxes. We'd taken them up with a tape gun and we taped up the boxes. We taped up the boxes. So when we visited the second guy, the one that was a bit dodgy, we called the taxi. Taxi arrived. We loaded the boxes into the back of the taxi, and then we went to the railway station. Now there was traffic. We were keen to get the train back, and we were really in a rush to go. So when the taxi arrived, we jumped out. We got the boot up. We got the records out. I was holding them. These heavy boxes. Records are heavy. I mean, there are 4 records to 1 kilo. So 60 records is like, it's 15 kilos, isn't it? They're actually quite heavy. Okay, there were 2 of us. So we managed. We got to the, actually, no, there were more like 6 boxes. We had about 3. We had a really big button. We spent thousands. We had a really big, we had a lot of records with us. We had about 300. So we had about maybe 6 or 7 boxes. I think it was more like 6 or 7 boxes. So we dashed to the train. We got on the train. We got there just in time and the train pulled out. Is it Liverpool Lime Street, I think? Or something like that. I think so. Yeah. So the train pulled out. We settled back. Oh, God. That was stressful. Oh, my God. That was stressful. So I settled back and there were no mobile phones in the day to look at in those days. I just sat back and looked out of the window. And eventually we started talking about the records we'd bought. And the records we'd actually put on the trains. As you go into the carriage, on the left or right, there's a place where you can put boxes. Well, we sat near there. We put the boxes there. And my colleague said to me, are the records okay? I said, yeah. He said, will you go and check them? I said, yeah, I went to check them. And I saw we'd stacked the boxes one on top of the other. And he said to me, how many boxes are there? And I counted them. I said, oh, there's 5. He said, well, there should be more than that. He said, no, there must be more. So I said, no, there's just 5 boxes. And he said, but we bought more records than that. He said that there were 7 boxes, not 5. And I looked on the other side and no, there were just 5. There were 5 boxes. There were 5 boxes. He suddenly went white. He went white and I sort of started sweating a bit. And he looked at me really seriously and he said, do you realize we've probably lost thousands of pounds worth of records? And I said, are you sure? I said, look, we were in such a hurry. It seemed like we had a lot and we came away with a lot and we've got a lot now. Are you sure there were 7 boxes? He said, yeah. He said there were 7 boxes. And I said, for goodness sake, we must have left the other 2 boxes in the taxi. And he was panicking and, looking really, shell-shocked. And I said, okay, look, just calm down. Those records, we either left them behind at the dealer that we've visited, or we left them in the taxi. Don't panic, I said. Don't panic. There were mobile phones in those days, and as I recall, either me or him had a mobile phone, one of the old Nokias, the no frills phones. And we called this guy, the dealer, and we said, did we leave anything behind? And we trusted him to tell us because, yeah, I mean, he'd try and pass us the odd dodgy record, but I didn't believe that he'd be so dishonest that, he wouldn't tell us if we had left something behind. He would say. He said, no, that there's nothing. Why? And I said, well, because to be honest with you, we've got on the train, there are only 5 boxes here. Do you remember how many boxes we packed up? And he said, oh yeah, there were more than 5 boxes. And he confirmed, he said it was more like 7 or 8. And I said, oh, okay, thanks. Now he'd called the taxi and I couldn't remember who they were, because they just turned up and we paid him. And I said to this guy, do you remember the name of the taxi company? And he said, oh yeah, it was Premier Taxis or something like that. And I said, look, I'll call you back later. Can you get their number? Because I need to give them a quick call. I think we've left our records on that taxi because we're on the train here. We've only got 5 boxes. He said, yeah, sure. Anyway, I tried to call him back when we were on the train journey. Couldn't get back to him. Eventually, we went back to his place first, and we decided to leave all the records where they were. We didn't divvy them up. I left them in his house, and I think I'd parked at his house, and then I went home, and I went to sleep that night. Yeah, concerned because, you're talking about maybe 120 records. All were going to be like wideband SXLs, white and golds, all desirable material. And to lose maybe over 100 records of that quality would have been quite a blow. One that we would have survived, of course, but to lose that number of records would kind of dull the shine on the day because we hadn't got these for £1 each. We'd paid, high prices for them, and we needed to get high prices for them to make money. So the next day I called this guy. I said, oh, did you get the number of that taxi firm? He said, yeah, sorry I didn't get back to you because, he had 1 or 2 issues to deal with. And he gave me the number. I then called this taxi firm. I said who we were, that, we'd been dropped off at Liverpool Lime Street yesterday at 5 p.m. And we think we've left a couple of boxes in the back of the taxi. And it was a lady I spoke to, and she says, oh yes, we've got them here. Well, great. Fantastic. I said, oh, that's wonderful. I said, look, I'm going to call UPS or Parcel Force, and I'll ask them to come and pick them up. Is that okay? And she said, yeah, that's fine. So, okay. We got the records. We got the records back, and everything was fine. But yes, it did teach us a lesson that if ever, it might not have turned out okay. It might not have turned out okay. I don't know why. I didn't really think those records were in serious danger, because if that taxi driver, most people are generally honest, and I don't work on the assumption that people are dishonest. I work on the assumption that they're honest. And so when I went to sleep that night, I had very little fear that we would lose those records. I thought we would get them back one way or the other, unless something really catastrophic happened and he found them in the back of his car and thought we didn't want them and he dropped them off at a charity shop or something like that. Or I don't know. Or he was a record collector himself, a classical collector, and thought, oh my God, it's all my Christmases have come at once. These are mine to keep. Finders, keepers, losers, weepers. No, we did get them back, and we divvied them up, and everything was fine. But okay, well, I spent 14 minutes telling that tale. You're probably thinking it wasn't really worth it, but I did miss a few heartbeats, and him going as white as a sheet when he realized, and he said, oh my God, Stuart, do you realize we've probably lost thousands of pounds worth of records? Okay, that's all for now. Thanks for supporting my channel. Bye for now.